The SEC's lawsuit appears to be backed with sophisticated blockchain forensics. They allegedly have traced funds being passed through dozens of intermediary wallets and through a mixer. The lawsuit alleges that over 94% of all tokens were allocated to Richard Hart and his insiders without disclosing that. In the Hex ecosystem, this appears to have been done by spinning up lots of wallets and claiming more Hex token than he would otherwise have been allocated. You could have an otherwise perfectly good company, but if the CFO is secretly embezzling money, that is indicative of fraud. Richard Hart is alleged to have private access to both the Pulse contract address and sacrifice address, which means that all investor funds directed towards those addresses have gone to his private piggy bank, which he's used to buy luxury watches, expensive sports cars, and a 555-carat black diamond, because why not when you're just going to town on other people's money? The real issue here is lack of disclosure. If you're going to raise funds for these purposes, you should tell your investors, hey, I'm just going to blow this money and give a little bit to the dev team. A reasonable assumption is that the funds raised for this project would go to further the project, not for the private fund of the founder. Now, if Richard Hart had given himself a paycheck, he's free to use those funds however he pleases. But if you're taking investor funds directly and then going off and spending them, that is going to be viewed as fraud in the eyes of the law. While I'm of the opinion that securities laws tend to be too cumbersome when broadly applied to the cryptocurrency industry today, there's no question that founders of projects should be accountable to explain how the funds raised were utilized. Some language that gives me pause in this lawsuit is when it describes that investors are depending upon others to see a return on their investment. I would say if you held an L1 proof of stake token, the value of that token could depend upon the federated ability of those operating network nodes and a constellation of decentralized application developers. Labeling Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX crypto asset securities is problematic. They are just tokens. It's more the promises around these tokens that creates the security relationship. There's an excellent video by Ripple's lawyer where he describes how digital assets can become securities through promises that construct investment contracts. And it does appear that investment contracts existed with Hex token. It was promised as a blockchain certificate of deposit, and it doesn't get more investment contract than that. The whole blanket digital asset securities tagline is problematic, but the notion that digital assets can be transformed into digital asset securities, that makes sense. So if the SEC means to say that the digital asset security they're talking about happens to encompass the digital asset itself with promises wrapped into that to create an investment contract, that I would be on board with. While there are reasons to be cautious about this lawsuit potentially signaling SEC overreach, it is hard to argue with the merits of this lawsuit because it does appear that Richard Hart and potentially a team of insiders lined their pockets with their own tokens without disclosing it, and then misappropriated investor funds to buy all sorts of things. In Richard Hart's apparent response to the SEC lawsuit, he was quick to point out all the good deeds he's ever done in the cryptocurrency space, talking about how he helped people set up wallets, how he helped steer people away from scam projects, and pointing out all the issues that he has with the SEC, letting people down and letting investors get wrecked. So let me ask you, Richard, how many old ladies do you need to help cross the street before you're given the green light to commit murder? There's no amount of good deeds that excuses bad deeds. So let's focus attention back on what you're alleged to have done. Did you misappropriate investor funds? Yes or no? How did you come up with the funds to pay for those expensive luxury goods? Is it true that you allocated yourself an outsized supply of Hex tokens? And if so, why didn't you disclose this to your investors? Do you have access to the Pulse contract address? Did you siphon funds through a mixer? And why did you use that mixer? What were you trying to conceal? These are the questions you should be addressing. Now, there are going to be people that continue to defend Richard Hart, either because they're balls deep in their Hex investments, or they have some sort of relationship with Richard Hart or like the guy or think that any kind of regulation in the cryptocurrency space is bad. But if you steal from your investors, if you do nefarious things without disclosing it, that is fair game, and this lawsuit seems to be mostly good from my perspective. Most people with opinions on the matter haven't really read the case in detail, And to help you along with that, I have recorded an audio narration which you can listen to right here if you'd like. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.